It's become an embarrassment to the town that there's still a road named after the number 3 genocidal lunatic in the world.
This is Stalin Road. Yes, Stalin, as in Joseph Stalin, the infamous Soviet dictator found responsible for the deaths of millions of people. This road in Colchester has been a hot topic of debate. So should Stalin Road have its name changed, and why do residents want to keep it? Stalin Road is part of this housing estate built in 1948 in the aftermath of World War II, and in commemoration, streets on this estate were named after the Allied war leaders, Churchill, Roosevelt and Stalin. Many other streets and roads in Europe also took up Stalin's name, especially after the Battle of Stalingrad, and there's even a Stalin Avenue in Chatham. But the world soon started to learn the true extent of Stalin's regime, from millions of his own citizens being executed to millions being subjected to forced labour, famine and detention. And as a result, many streets decided to get rid of the leader's name. But for Stalin Road here in Colchester, it hasn't been that straightforward, as there's been ongoing debate about whether to keep the name or not.
Hi, my name's Donald Tinman and I've lived on Stalin Road for 35 years.
What did you think of the street name when you moved here?
I love World War II history and I've got bookcases full of it, so I'm under no illusions about Stalin, and his odious regime just replaced another odious regime. But that shouldn't detract from the effort and sacrifice the Russian people put into that war. And the only thing we have to sort of commemorate the Russian effort is Stalin Road.
Back in 2009, then Colchester MP Sir Bob Russell decided to carry out a poll with Stalin Road residents.
Every now and again, somebody comes up with a bright idea that the name of Stalin Road should be changed, but never ever a resident of Stalin Road. Never once has that happened.
74 houses were contacted, in which 30 responded and only 4 said they wanted to change the name.
Knowing that we're going to have this interview today, last night I knocked on a few doors. Not one person wants the name of their road changed. They are living in a road with an historic name. It's an unfortunate historic name, but they don't want it changed.
Last year, this debate resurfaced again on social media, and one such individual to oppose the street name is David Bober, who lives in the US.
I was born and raised in Colchester. I'm a Colchester boy, and I lived there for more than 30 years and before I moved here. And it never really occurred to me that it was a thing. It was just another road name. But as I've thought about it more, it's become, I think, certainly by 2023, an embarrassment to the town that there's still a road named after the number 3 genocidal lunatic in the world.
You don't live on Stalin Road, so why do you care about the name of the road?
We knew how evil Stalin was in the 1950s with that Khrushchev speech that, began the process of de-Stalinization. And even in the Eastern Bloc, in places like East Germany, where you have a town called Stalinstadt, in 1961, the East German Communist Party were like, well, we're going to rename this to Eisenhüttenstadt. It just seems odd that if the Communist Party of the Soviet Union in 1961 thought Stalin is a bad man and we should rename Stalingrad, that we're still hanging on to the idea that we need to commemorate the man rather than the people.
Last year on Twitter, there was lots of discussion about Stalin Road. What would be your message to those people?
They've got no understanding of history. To be insulted by Stalin, yeah, sure, I can understand that, but do remember that some of these figures were giants at the time, which in the long run helped us have our freedom here now, even if the Russian people themselves didn't get it.
On that housing estate, there's also Churchill Avenue, and Churchill has been accused of being a racist. There's also accusations that his policies led to a famine in India that killed around 3 million people.
Yes, the Bengal famine, yes.
Yeah, so do you think that we should get rid of Churchill Avenue as well as Stalin Road?
I mean, this is going to be a difficult one because Churchill seems to be just a complicated man throughout history. As regards his racism, I think that's very much he's a product of his age. I mean, he's a Victorian living in a modern world.
We have to acknowledge the fact that, we wouldn't have survived without Churchill. We'd have probably thrown in the towel before the Battle of Britain, the way some British politicians wanted to. So did I want someone who's a bit racist helping defeat the Nazis? Or not? Yeah, I'd go with the racist Churchill, yeah.
The school that I went to in Colchester, Philip Moran School, we had a house system, and one of the houses was Churchill House. So it just gives us an opportunity to say, you know, why did we name this house after Churchill? Because he was a great war leader and a great prime minister, but also to, you know, talk about Churchill as a deeper personality and the flaws to the character as well.
Could you not also say the same about Stalin Road?
I think I think he's an exception. I mean, he's responsible for 20 to 30 million deaths, and most of those deliberately caused.
In 2017, the online estate agents housesimple.com found that Stalin Road's name could potentially put off house buyers. So why do residents want to keep its name?
You've got to bear in mind, it's not just a simple job of changing the road street nameplate, it's everybody's legal documentation, and it's between £2,000 and £3,000 per household to change all that legal documentation. There were 3 businesses registered at houses in this road. Imagine for business having to change all their legal paperwork and so on.
If I moved from where I live at the moment and I moved 2 streets over, I would have to change my bank account details, my driver's license details, my car insurance details, my health insurance details. I'd have to change that simply by moving house. So those are just routine things that we do as human beings in the 21st century.
I mean, there's not many houses in Stalin Road. If the government wanted to, they could just write off some money to every household to cover those costs and maybe name it something to do with the Russian people and their war effort, but without the name Stalin in it.
Do you think that getting rid of Stalin Road's name is rewriting history?
We are rewriting history, but we're continually re-evaluating it. So history's not set in mud. If we pull an artifact out of the ground, that's an artifact that can't be changed. But what the story we tell about it. So the story we tell about Stalin Road, the story we tell about changing the name of Stalin Road. Yeah, we are changing history, but we're changing it for the good, and that's part of the process.
You do not rewrite history. You have to accept history is in the past. You have to accept what the situation was then, not how you view things now. And we mustn't assume that how we view things today is what in 50 years, 100 years time people will look at our time. Nobody's perfect. In Colchester Town Hall, for example, so at the top of the stairs, there's one piece of artwork which is incomplete, and that is because nobody does anything perfect, and therefore we have to accept. So even in a physical building, there's an acknowledgement that nobody's perfect.